The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Spring in some portions of the country has sprung, as it's said. Others is still waiting to spring, I guess it would be. And some people are just kind of in between. Now, there's times where we have gotten spring-like conditions for 72, 96 hours, and then bad things happen again.
Yeah, even as of late, it seems like around here. So you want to keep in mind that you might think, oh, it's 50 degrees today, and I just have that spring fever itch, and I want to plant some stuff.
Well, scratch it, but don't plant anything.
Exactly. Maybe just drive around with your windows down. I don't know.
Go to the garden center.
Go to the garden center.
Don't buy anything yet.
Well, you could buy something, like some seeds or something.
Well, you could buy, you can get some seeds from jungsseeds.com. And there's certain things you don't want to buy from your garden center. We talked about that last week on the program.
Right. But you might get this itch where you're like, I can't wait to put these peas in the ground and these radishes and all of the things. I'm going to plant all the things. And then the next day it snows.
Well, there's a saying, and I think I'm abbreviating it somewhat. It says, a wise man plants his garden the first time when his neighbor plants his the second time.
Right. So you don't want to be the second planting neighbor.
Yeah. You want
to avoid that. Yeah. You want to be the first or the wait guy.
So first of all, long range forecast is what we need to look at. Second is air temperature, but more importantly, soil temperature. What does the soil temperature tell us, Holly? That what do we need to look for? What does that mean?
It just basically means that the soil temperature would be able to sustain the growth and continued growth of whatever you put in the soil. So if you know that the soil temperature should be 40 degrees, that means that it should hopefully stay consistently. And obviously there might be occasional exceptions, but when you look at the long range forecast and it shows nothing but sunny, warmer, increasing days for the next 10 days, you're probably in a good spot.
Now, for many of us, we are just waiting for that forecast, those days to get to what is considered safe for the early crops, the cool weather crops, the brassicas, the radishes, the greens. There are, and then you get to the next level of gardeners who have low tunnels or hoops, growing hoops, or frost covers. Frost sheets where they put over, and they can what is considered or categorized as season extenders, and that is an investment in which you can get a little bit more out of the beginning of the season and in the end of the season or winter and spring with these domes in which you can either construct with PVC pipe, some 6 mil plastic, and some metal rods. I forget what we call it. Somebody's yelling at it right now on the radio.
Dowels?
No, yeah, they're like dowels, but they're metal. That's rebarb. That's what it is. And you can make your own. There is a finesse to them, as meaning it is a small greenhouse. If it is mildly warm outside, it's going to be really warm inside, and you could potentially bake your greens before you harvest them in your low tunnel.
Right. Those low tunnels, small greenhouses, miniature greenhouses, whatever you want to call them, they heat up fast and quick. And then, like Joy said, you could be baking your greens, which is the opposite of what you want for sure. So, yeah, so you want to keep in mind that.
How do we find the soil temperature, Holly?
You can take your meat thermometer.
From Walton's.
And you can dig down, I don't know, like a few inches.
Right.
Wherever the root zone you think would be. And you just stick that thing in there and let it tell the temperature, and then you know. There
you go. Digital thermometer, meat thermometer works well. Walton's Incorporated has that. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But it works very well to get that instant reading. And just because that reading is a certain temperature in one part of the garden, that doesn't mean that is going to be a across the garden measurement based on what you've got, how your garden lays out, how the sun hits it. You might have many microclimates inside of your garden. And which means that potentially, if you follow and the long range forecast, the air temperature, the soil temperature, you can plant certain things in certain areas of your garden where you can't plant other things at because of that microclimate or the way the sun is hitting that soil in the back corner or the front, the high end, or wherever it is.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you want to keep in mind. Now, when you look at the long-term forecast, would you say that you want to think about an average, or maybe you just want to see that it's just steadily staying where you want it to stay?
If you need 40 degrees at minimum temperature, let's just go with soil temperature. Anything if your low temperatures are 40 or above, you need that low temperature to be at the minimum what you need for the soil temperature to be. Because if the soil temperature needs to be 40 and you're at 45 minimum for the next 15 days, you're probably going to be okay.
I think another thing to keep in mind is rain. So if you are in an area that gets a lot of rain, especially like us in April,
yeah.
If you decide to plant these seeds and you see in the long-term forecast you're going to have 4 straight days of rain, you might want to back off a week. Yeah.
Wait for that rain to clear, because most of these seeds in which you're planting are smaller seeds which can be disrupted by water. And then if you think you have planted a nice row of spinach, it's all to the back end of the garden because it's flushed down because of 4 inches of rain. So you want to be mindful of that. So whenever we're planting and this is cool weather crops, but let's talk about warm weather crops, your tomatoes, your eggplants, your peppers, your cucumbers. Cucumbers, as much as you try to put them in early, cucumbers don't like cool soil. They don't even like warm soil. They need very warm soil. They need like 60 plus degrees in order to do what they need to do. Tomatoes are fidgety. You can get around 50 is what they're saying. We typically here where we're at in southeast Wisconsin, Memorial Day weekend is the traditional start of summer where you can plant your tomatoes. Now, in years past, we've planted them the 10th of May because that long-range forecast has shown much above normal. And we've also waited to the first weekend in June to plant because we've had such a cold, wet May. So this is the same for your warm weather plants, especially your watermelon, your pumpkins, your squashes that need that hot temperature. If they need hot temperatures, they need very warm soil in order to grow and to grow correctly.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is that I know that a lot of people, especially here, we're located in Wisconsin, in southeast Wisconsin, they're right on Memorial Day weekend. They're like, we have to get all these plants in the ground. This is what we're going to do. And as Joy had mentioned, sometimes it's okay to wait that week. And then sometimes it's okay to start a week early.
And we know there is a certain caliber of gardener that it doesn't matter what the temperature is. They're going to slam them in the ground because they want to be that first person on the block or at their church or at their social gathering to say, I've got my first tomato, and it's weeks before anybody else.
Well, now you can find the first tomato just by buying the right seeds. So that might be an option for you too. But yeah, there are people like that want to be the first, and that's, if that's your jam, that's okay. I commend you, but for us, I know we would rather plant the first time and the right time.
And seeds are expensive. Plant starts are even more expensive every year. So if you're relying on plant starts because you do not want to start seeds or you're unable to start seeds, you want to make your move and you want to make it count. If you're planting seeds and some of them don't come up, that's a little less of a hit financially than if you've got 6 or 7 tomato plants at $5+ a pop and 3 of them don't make it. If you started like we do, we start typically about 120 to 150 tomatoes and then wean them down to about 80. We've got backups to backups, so we can cover ourselves that we don't have to go purchase tomatoes or peppers at the garden center.
Right. And again, it just comes down to being smart and to being, I don't want to say cautious, but just making an informed decision for yourself.
Your mileage may vary where you're at. Well, Holly, we talked about the meat thermometer from Walton's for your soil temperature, but Walton's has a lot of other things besides a meat thermometer that is intended for meat, but you can use for soil temperature.
Absolutely. So we are brought to you today by our sponsor, Walton's Inc. We know you care about where your food comes from. You want to can and preserve your fruits and vegetables. But what about the meat? At waltonsinc.com, you can get all of the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat products your way to your high standards. Do you want to make snack sticks that people will actually like? Walton's created meatgistics.com, an informational site to help you make the best finished product. Walton's even has their full line of meat grinders, mixers, and sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. You can go to waltonsinc.com, use the code GROW50, GROW50 to save 10% off of orders of $50 or more. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.